Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021 and the podcast of RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress. Hopefully, you guys have all started off the new year on a great note, and we are so excited. We have a fantastic show for you tonight. Tonight, we have Deb Burton from Rhode Island and Info. Hi, Deb. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Tina. Thank you for having me. Happy New Year. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Hopefully, your 2021 started off way better than 2020 ended.
Yes, indeed. It did. I think 2021 is got a really low threshold to beat 2020 for a lot of people. But I really think it's going to be a great year for so very many
Yeah.
reasons. Just despite
Oh,
what's happening in
I
DC
agree.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, the low threshold, I truly agree with that. So it's only up from here at this point, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Rhode Island Elder Info.
So, RA Elder Info, we're a 501c3 nonprofit here in Rhode Island. Our mission is to empower people throughout the aging journey by providing easy, one-stop access to a comprehensive suite of information and resources. It really is our core belief that information is power, and no one should suffer and struggle to live a healthy, safe, dignified, and happy life from a lack of information and resources. So we're all about giving the information away for free. Our website's rielderinfo.com. We launched as a .com in October 19th of 2018. We got our 501c3 last summer, but in that interim, there were a lot of organizations that linked to rielderinfo.com. So we didn't want to switch it over to .org and have those links break when I know that there are many organizations that are really depending on having a good link. So we are a nonprofit, even though we are a .com.
I agree with you. We're a .com as well. We went .com when we started. That's RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress. And then we just left it as .com because our website and everything else was already .com. So it was just easier than it was to change it around. The info stays the same. It's just a matter of a .com or a .org. So tell us a little
Exactly,
bit about your
exactly. I'm a senior, or I'm a caregiver, or I'm a professional. And you'll be taken to the next page where all 39 cities and towns are listed with resources for individuals who are older that are available specific to that city and town's residents. And then if you scroll down a little further on the page, you'll see that there are 6 large boxes. One is health and support, another is housing, transportation, And in all that time, I've talked like thousands of older adults, some in assisted living, some in nursing homes, receiving home care, etc. And I've had one person who wanted to be in the nursing home. Everybody else wants to age in place. And we don't always know how to do that. And that's where the World Health Organization put together the 8 domains of aging in place. I took those 8 domains, consolidated them into 6, because one of them, and left one off, I should say. The one I left off happens to do with large system government changes, which Age Friendly Rhode Island is actually doing a really good job at. And that's the things like changing the overall built environment, the governmental entities that we don't always think about, like curb cuts for individuals who are in chairs. So if you're in a wheelchair, a curb cut is great for you. If you are a mom pushing a stroller, a curb cut is great for you. So that's the kind of thing that is Age Friendly is working on. And RA Elder Info will bring attention to that. But RA Elder Info is really directed at what are the resources that you can access now on your own independently to stay independent. You know, we loathe to ask for help, and that doesn't change as we age. So we always want to figure out, you know, how can I do this on my own to the best of my ability? And that's what RA Elder Info is there to do, is to provide that information for people, so that they can access things on their own. I'm always there behind the scenes. If somebody needs to call and ask for help, I'm always willing to help. Do a lot of advocacy for our older adults, participate in a lot of the state meetings as a member of the public. And I'm not afraid to speak up and speak out, as I know you are.
Oh, absolutely. Now, when it's called Rhode Island Info, Elder Info, do you still do a lot with the disabled community? Are there resources for them as well? Because I know sometimes the elder part kind of slays, because obviously I don't look elder, and if anybody says I do, I will deny it. So, but no, there's a blurred line there. So, is it for all ages for the resources?
It is, because if you think about not so well, let me back up a second. There are some programs that are offered through the state that are restricted by age. So you need to be age 55 or up, age 60 or 65, depending on the program. But a lot of the same resources that are not particularly state funded are also applicable to individuals with disabilities. So, for example, regardless of your physical ability, knowing whether or not it's safe to drive is really important. You know, other than, you know, being like a 16-year-old who, yeah, you're just not safe to drive anyway. But, you know, learning what is the best way to drive. But then if you lose your ability to drive, what are the resources available to you? And that's not age-based. You know, people need to know about the different RIPTA services, the ride services, the MTM transportation. You know, folks may be familiar, your watches with MTM, but, you know, MTM will do the transportation back and forth for medical appointments. But newsflash, we don't always just go to medical appointments. We might want to, be wild and crazy and get our hair cut, you know, maybe go see a friend. So I've included the information
Go out for
on
a
wheelchair
drink,
accessible
go to a
cabs.
dance. Yeah.
Oh my God, wild and crazy.
No, it's exactly so true. Like, people just think that, you know, I've had the question actually posed to me, why do you need to go out other than 9 to 5? The doctors are closed. Like, my life is just about going to the doctor's office. I want to live. I'm young. I want to go out and I want to do things. I just heard from our tech producer that she would like you to go over the website again, because some of the audio cut out during that. So if you could, just go through the website again, because I want to make sure that everybody knows what's there and what is accessible for them.
Absolutely. Go ahead and bring that up. And then you can pick your choice, senior, caregiver, or professional.
Okay.
And then there we go. So you can pick I'm a senior. You can pick it right off the toolbar, or you can scroll down. There's no wrong door. So you've selected that I am a senior. of course, I have to point out, which I forgot the first time when you couldn't hear me anyway, it would be great if you're a senior, send out a regular newsletter. You can sign up for my newsletter right there. Yep, right there. There's also in that spot, there's a calendar of events that the events are specific to seniors and caregivers. So it could be anything from the memory cafe to different events that are going on in the community. Right now, a lot of things are virtual. But where people are looking for things to do, there's a wide variety on the calendar of things to do. So there's my memory cafes. We've still got that stuff. We've got Friday Friends going on. So you can hit your back button, or you can hit I am a senior, because there is no wrong. So then there's my fabulous supporters. Keep going, and then you can find your local resources, the resources that are specific to your city or town. So for example, if you're in Barrington they have an organization that can provide some limited transportation, some food assistance, and it's specific for the Barrington and East Bay residents. So keep going, see where it says on the left-hand side, tap in, whoop, zip too quick. There you go. Community specific resources. The tap in program is specifically for Barrington. They don't cover the whole area. Tap in covers a couple other communities as well. So you'll see tap in repeat on the communities that they also cover. But a lot of times people really need to know what is local and available to them close to home. So every city and town is represented with the resources available to the residents of those cities and towns. Sometimes for the cities and towns, you do have to prove residency for their programs, but usually that's not too onerous. So then we have our health and support. So if you click into health and support, there we go. Scroll down a little bit, because we always have to thank our sponsors and nonprofits. Here are the different types of information that are available that fall under the big umbrella of health and support. What are the types of care that are available? Because sometimes people don't know that you can have home care or you can have nursing home care, and that there's a wide variety in between. One of the big questions that comes up is, how do we pay for care? What are the safety mechanisms around care? When I am a caregiver, what resources are available for me? What about dementia, which unfortunately is really skyrocketing, and it's expected to continue? We also have the services that are available for veterans. And then, although they're really, you might not necessarily think of it under health and support, sometimes when we really need information is after someone passes away. And then the different steps that are involved. I think, that's one of the things that sadly has become even more important and made a lot more people aware due to COVID, is that it's a business, sadly. And there's a lot of steps to it that we don't always think about. So I included the information on what to expect and the things to think about after somebody passes away, as far as, perhaps your husband passed away and now you need to re-register the cars. How do you do that? So that kind of thing. So that's just the health and support. So you can hit the back button. There you go. Next one is housing. If you think about housing, there are 3 kinds of housing. You own your house, you rent your house, you don't have a house. And make no mistake, there are many seniors and individuals with disabilities who are homeless. We don't often talk about that. And what I found in having conversations with discharge planners and social workers is they really weren't expecting to work with individuals who they would have to discharge out to homelessness. And it really opened my eyes. So homelessness is also included. But say, for example, you need a ramp put in and you own your house. There are different resources for getting that ramp put in, and you can just click the button. If you are a renter, there are some rules and guidelines in relation to having modifications and reasonable accommodations for your apartment. So that information is there. People might not realize that the VA offers benefits to veterans of all eras under certain guidelines to have a lot of home modifications done. That there are organizations such as the Masons. They may have ramps available for rent or loan. They may also have other durable medical equipment available as well. So there's lots of different pieces when you think about housing. Too often people jump right to, oh my God, I need to find a nursing home. And there's a lot of steps in between. You can have your house modified and stay there. There's the home modification grant that's available out there, which I'm hoping the budget sustains into the new year, for the home modification grant. There's the I think it's alternative dwelling unit, where if you have a home or one of your family members has a home with an attached area that can be made into its own apartment, that's legal, and it is not related to being a renter, or sorry, not being a renter, but being a landlord-tenant situation. There's regulations that are waived in the ADU situation. So these things aren't specific to age. These are not specific to abilities. A lot of times people don't even know about OSIL, Ocean State Center for Independent Living, which also provides a tremendous resource out there. So, RI Elder Info covers such a wide variety. There's over 100 pages of information, and I'm adding to it on a regular basis. There's also a blog that I put up. I haven't been faithful to it in the last couple weeks, but I try to make a blog post about once a week to get the information out to people. Send out a newsletter every week. I don't sell my newsletter information because that's just gross. And it's just getting people the information that they need. It's interviewing folks like yourself as well to increase the awareness for what is happening in the community. What are the resources out there in the community? How do we age in place? How do we remain engaged when we have differing abilities? All these different pieces.
It's so true. People don't realize, and I said this 1,000 times, I ended up in the disabled community in 10 minutes. Completely freak accident during a small minor procedure. I took a spinal stroke and woke up after a 10-minute procedure, paralyzed from the waist down. So that's how I got thrown into. And I wasn't part of a group. I didn't have MS or SB or, any of the terms of being. So it was very hard for me to navigate the world from my wheelchair. It took me a year and a half to get a proper ramp out my front door, to get a van that I could get around in. That these organizations and these resources between both of our nonprofits, we help people who end up like me navigate the world better. I mean, all of our parents are aging. They're going to end up either temporarily or permanently in either the elder community or the disabled community. I mean, you break a knee, you break a hip, you get into a car accident. Anybody could be needing these services, and having it so readily available is so important, because it's things, like I said, I knew our world was inaccessible just for the minor things that, bringing my grandmother around or doing certain things. I didn't realize how bad it was until I had to navigate the world in a wheelchair, and I started missing out on things. So we're bringing awareness to other people to open their eyes to things that they don't think about because they don't utilize. What do you think is the most underserved or under-recognized thing in what you do?
The fact that you need to know the information before you need to know the information. So one of the things that I tell everybody, and I will tell all your viewers, if you're over 18, you should have a healthcare power of attorney. We never think about that at 18, that we should have someone who has the legal authority to make decisions when we're not able to. So, it's when I talk to seniors, sometimes they're like, oh my God, I don't want to get a healthcare power of attorney because, then my daughter's going to put me in the nursing home, and healthcare powers of attorney don't work that way. They're only in effect when you're not able to make decisions on your own. So, for example, when you're undergoing that procedure, your healthcare power of attorney would be in effect. But when you wake up from that procedure, it's no longer in effect. Still a valid document, but it's no longer in effect. And by having someone named, it makes it easier for your family members, for your loved ones. I think the other thing that people don't often do is have real conversations about what's important to them, the quantity versus quality of life. And what does that mean? What does that look like from an individual basis? Um, we don't necessarily want to have those conversations, but hey, here's a great opportunity. You can say, I saw it on Facebook tonight, and let's have that conversation. One thing COVID has done is it has brought up, the idea that you could be feeling fine today and you can be in the hospital struggling for your life in a matter of days. So that is one thing that COVID has really brought to mind. And it's important to have these conversations about what it is that's important. Because, some people might say, if I'm going to be disabled, oh my God, my world is going to end. And yet, Tina, you're a perfect example that that's not true. You can go on and you can lead like an amazing life and do amazing things and not even think twice about it.
It's so true. I think it was harder for the people around me I think a lot of people thought that I gave up because I stopped wishing for that miracle. I mean, I would love to walk someday. I know that it's probably a 1% chance. So I have to live and accept the way that I am. I can still hope for that miracle, but I have to live every day accepting that I'm probably never going to walk again, but I'm not going to miss out on life in the process. And it's so important what you said about having that conversation, because my son is 20 and he's going to school and he's becoming a first responder, and that's what he's going. I've had this conversation with him. What if you were in a car accident? What if this happened? Would you want to be an organ donor? What would you want? What are your wishes? What do you think of life? You know what I mean? You need to have, you're never too young to have that conversation, because you're never too young to have an accident or get into trouble or have something happen to you where you might need that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things also that we don't necessarily talk about is 30% of Rhode Island is aging alone. And so they might not have a family member. Reach out to a friend, contact a lawyer, make plans. And if it is, or if you are aging alone because your family and friends are not nearby, set up a regular check-in system. So it really doesn't matter like how old you are. Shoot a text to somebody every night at 7:00. Or if your parents are older, your grandparents are older, call them every day at 7:00. Even if it's just, hi Nana, how are you? All right, great. I gotta run now. I'll talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow. Because if something's wrong, and as we age, the most likely thing to go wrong is we will fall. Statistical probability is a fall. It means if somebody's checking on you at least once a day at a regular set time, if you don't answer that phone, it alerts someone that something's wrong. And then your loved one can say, can we do a welfare check? And it's the little things like that to really check on each other, look out for each other. And I think as a whole, this is my own little personal soapbox, is we do have to look after each other. Like, last time I checked, ain't none of us getting out alive. So we got to take care of each other. We all got to row the boat in the same direction.
It's so true. I mean, my son, like I said, my son is living here at my Habitat house with me. And every night, whether he's out or here, we will always shoot each other a text just every night. I'm okay. Love you. Good night. You know what I mean? Just that simple text. At least you had that check-in. And what people don't realize is there's so many of us in the disabled community who are living out and about in the community alone, in their own apartments, in our own houses, with no one to check on us. I know a couple of quadriplegics who, yes, are quadriplegics, but are living alone in their own apartment, out and about. We're not in a group home. We're not in congregate settings. We're out in your community. We're out where everybody, you know what I mean? And sometimes those are the ones who, like, especially now with COVID, are the ones that are forgotten, because if they can't get out because of their immune system or there's bad weather, we're New England, it could be a snowstorm or it could be a bright sunny day, but you never know what's going to happen. And now living out here in Burrillville, I'll tell you, whatever the weather is, it's 10 times worse out here. I swear to God, it changes by the minute. It's crazy. So know your neighbors, make at least one neighbor, where you wave to and you say hi to. You don't have to see each other every day. Just kind of make sure that they kind of see you. So that way, if they don't see you for a while, they know to check on you. Or they know to send somebody to check on you. That's such an important thing that people forget about.
Yeah. I think, back in the 50s, we used to know our neighbors far more. And then as things progressed, more women started working outside of the house, a lot of dual earner families as it may be. And so we didn't really see our neighbors as much. But we really need to come back to that. Now, the funny thing is about living in the country, because I'm not far from you. I'm up in North Scituate. Um, I feel like in the country, the neighbors are more likely to at least reach out a little bit and to help one another, because we know that help isn't coming anytime soon, even if we call for it. And we have
Right.
volunteer fire departments, which God bless them, they're wonderful. I'm not bad mouthing them at all. But help is going to arrive faster with your neighbors. If you're waiting for
Yes.
somebody to come and shovel you out, you're more likely to get somebody in your community who recognizes that you have challenges to shoveling out to come and help you. Of course, you can always hire someone with a plow. Might recommend that for the
Right.
Burrowville area.
Yeah. I
But
mean, the thing is, one of the first things that I did when I moved here is I rode down to the two closest fire stations to me. I went down and introduced myself, told them my address. I brought my service dogs down so they could meet and greet, because I have a 190-pound Great Dane as a service dog and an 80-pound pit bull. If somebody was to come here, surprisingly, they're going to meet a dog eye to eye. My Great Dane stands eye level to most people. So I brought them down to the fire department. I introduced the dogs to, a lot of the guys. I'm doing that on a weekly basis on different shifts, just so the fire department learns me. I know the guys that are down there. My dogs are familiar with, some of the guys that are down there. Get to know your neighbors, get to know your fire department. They're the ones who are going to take care of you when the rescue is called. I'm inviting them to my house. I'm showing them around. I'm showing them, how to contain my dogs if they ever had to take me out. Make sure these are things that you're doing. You know what I mean? Bring them a plate of cookies or some chips and just say hi, thank you. And the friendlier you are with them, the better service that you're going to get. I mean, that's just common sense, But these are simple things that people can do to make sure that they're going to be safe in time when they don't know trouble is coming.
yeah, that's a great point, especially about, making the EMTs and the firefighters familiar with your pets. There are some resources out there that if you do need to go in for a procedure or you're being hospitalized, that will foster your pet for you in the meantime. Anybody who might be watching, if you are a military member, a veteran, active duty, about to be deployed, there's a really cool organization called Dogs on Deployment, and they will foster your dog for as long as necessary for, if you're deployed, for as long as you're serving. If you need to go into the hospital, they will foster your dog while you're, in recovery. The only requirement is that your dogs have to be properly vetted. So they have to have all their shots, which you kind of have to do anyway. Some fosters might require you to provide the food. Other fosters do have the ability to buy the food. Not just dogs, actually. Dogs on Deployment will do dogs, cats, horses, cows, peacocks, llamas, tarantulas, snakes. More than I would have in my house, but some people love the tarantulas. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I also recommend there is a keychain that you can get that you can carry on you in your wallet, or saying that my pet is home alone. Make sure someone's checked with your information on there, so somebody can go and check on your animal, in case you were in a car wreck, or in case you got, something happened to you. Somebody knows that there is an animal that doesn't realize why you're not coming home. That they can go and check on that. you leave an emergency number on it. I also have a sticker on both of my doors. It tells them how many service dogs, what the service dog is, and where they would be in my house. And I have a sticker right on my windows. So if there was a fire and stuff in my house, the firemen would be alerted not only how many children are in my house, if I had children that young, but how many dogs that they're looking for, or cats or tarantulas or whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up a really good point about having a card on you to identify your pets. I think it's also really important that if you are someone who requires assistance of another person on a regular basis, that person has a card that says there's someone who might need assistance if I am not able. So you might have a caregiver, a husband and wife, and the wife goes to the market while the husband is home. And any other day it would be fine, until the day the wife slips and falls at the market and gets taken out 911. If there's a card in their pocket or something that they can look at to alert, oh, wait a minute, her husband's at home and her husband needs some help, we need to go check on him. It's also really important for caregivers to have that for the ones that they are caring for. And we don't always think about it in that way too.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, because RAMP just so happens to have this thing called the Red Bag Initiative, that it's this little red bag that hooks to everything, that has your medical information in it. And you can also put who your caregiver is, about your service dogs, and everything in this little red bag that's non-tech based, that you carry with you on all times. I know, Deb, you're a red bag carrier, and I think everybody should become a red bag carrier, because it's a red color, and it's a place that the EMTs already know to look for. It's already so well known that people and your neighbors will find out you're a red bag carrier. They will just look for the red bag on you and know how to take care of you.
Yeah. And I love how you created the red bag. I think that there's a lot of stereotypes that are out there erroneously about individuals who have different abilities, that, all you do is sit home, period. And that's not true. It's not accurate. You lead a vibrant life. You have a vibrant personality, as we all do.
Right.
You happen to do things in a chair. You happen to start a nonprofit that does really cool stuff, that brought this red bag concept out to the world because you recognize that there was a need. And, I think that's awesome.
It's so important. I mean, my 20-year-old son carries one just because he wants to be an organ donor. He says, if I ever got into a car accident, Mom, or something, you don't have to make that. It's already written down in my red bag that I want to be an organ donor. It works if you have a trigger, if you have a mental condition where you have a trigger. The only one who would know about it are the EMTs or the doctors who look through your red bag. Or if, with the whole opioid thing going on right now, if you have a drug of choice, you list it in there. Or if you want somebody contacted, if you OD or you don't, it takes the whole HIPAA law out of it, because it's all written right down in your red bag on your person. So many people have said to me, oh, I have it in my phone, or I have it on a USB. Well, that's great. As long as don't die yet, give me your passcode so I can get it out of your phone. Or second, if there's a hurricane or power outage or flood, that's not going to do you any good. This is handwritten on your person at all times. And it's so important. I think every person should become a red bag carrier. And if you want to get one, just go to www.rampisinclusion.com and just click on the red bag on our website, and you can grab yours today. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't even realize you were going to bring that up, but that was a perfect segue, because that's where I have my service dogs information when I'm out and about, how to contact my husband or my son if I'm out and about, or what immediately do you need to know to take care of me right then and there.
Right. Maybe the answer in that red bag is, this is not an opioid crisis. This is a medical crisis, and here's what it is. It can also be very useful for individuals who have autism or any other, or aphasia, or any kind of communications disorders, that there's an opportunity that you can hand someone this information and they will understand better how to work with you. Communication is so important for all things that we do. regardless of ability. And I think that that's one of the things that the red bag definitely brings out there for folks who may find themselves in a situation where they're not able to communicate effectively for medical reasons. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I was during 2020, I was able to do a conference with 10,000 first responders throughout the country, not just Rhode Island. And they all absolutely love this because it's not in somebody's refrigerator. It's not on a USB. It's non-tech based, and it's on a person at all times. FEMA has picked up this red bag initiative. So this is not just Rhode Island. This is nationally, and this is globally. So everybody should become a red bag carrier at some point. Because it's so important. But I mean, especially for your Rhode Island elders that you service, how important would something like this be for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there may be times where you can't communicate effectively and people really need to know, who's your emergency contact? How do they get a hold of you? What medications are you on? And who's your physician or physicians plural? And, I think one of the good things about this being on the World Wide Web is we really are worldwide. So it doesn't matter where you're watching from, you can get a red bag. You can go onto Tina's site and you can get that information and have it on you. Especially like if you think about what information do you need to gather if you're in like hurricane country or tornado country. And you only have a short period of time. How long is it going to take you to write down all your medications, get everything, get your doctor's contact information all into that go bag when you might not have a whole lot of time to go? I think it's a great opportunity. And yet it's a great example of someone who, you're an example of someone who found themselves in a predicament that you never dreamed of that morning that you went in for surgery. You never thought, oh, I'm going to wake up and not be able to walk ever again. And so we forget sometimes that it really does happen that quickly, and it's better to be prepared. I think one of the things that might be a little bit different is when it comes to aging, we all pretty much know we're going to age. And when it comes to our parents or grandparents, we see them aging. And a lot of times it kind of works out like you kind of know mom's unsteady on her feet and you're really hoping everything's okay. And she's doing the furniture walking kind of thing. And then you get the call that the fall happened. And you really, it's really important that mom had the information available when the EMTs came through the door that, yeah, you're the one to call, because sometimes those minutes matter. It's those kinds of things.
And it's so true. And, so many people look at their aging parents or grandparents or whatever, and they see them day to day that sometimes they don't notice the signs right away because they see them so often that they don't recognize the small little signs or the dementia right away. Or, what would you say to somebody, in your Rhode Island info, what is the best resources that you can get to be prepared for something like this happening?
Well, I think try to stay in contact as much as possible, but you're right. Sometimes the changes are so small that you don't notice them. What a lot of times happens is when the holidays come, people start engaging with their older parents, grandparents, for Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's. And from year to year, they see the difference. They notice that Nana maybe forgot the stuffing recipe this year and she's really struggling. And then it's like, oh my God, what do we do now? But, to stay engaged as much as you can with your loved ones. And if you do notice something, say something. It's not, in particular with dementia, one of the insidious things about dementia is people with dementia don't necessarily recognize that they have dementia. And side note, not all dementia is Alzheimer's disease. Dementia is a symptom of something going on with your brain. Whether or not it's short-term or long-term, what's causing it. Dementia is like saying you have a runny nose. Okay, that's the symptom. And do you have the runny nose because you have allergies or because you have a sinus infection or because you were just dusting and stuff got in your nose? So dementia is a symptom of something going on in your brain, and it's not always Alzheimer's. Sometimes there can be, traumatic brain injuries that can cause dementia. There can be different types of dementia, Lewy body dementia, Wernicke-Korsakoff dementia, Alzheimer's dementia. There's many different causes for it. So when you see it, don't immediately think it's Alzheimer's. And one of the things that it's good to find out what kind of dementia it is you can there's some predictability as to what the behavior will look like as the dementia progresses. And make no mistake, dementia does progress. There are lots of medications that can slow the progression, but it does unfortunately progress. It's a brutal disease, and hopefully, the way Warp Speed got out a vaccine for COVID, I'm hoping that we have some kind of Warp Speed version for dementia. That'd be awesome. To have all the laboratories work on that. Yeah.
But again, it's so important, again, to have that conversation with your family, to also write down a family history. Like I've had breast cancer twice. I've had bladder cancer twice. My grandmother had thyroid cancer in her side of the family. There's different, my father died of a twisted bowel, something completely out of the ordinary. But it's good to know your family history, grandparents and parents on both sides. Make a list, keep a chart, pass it down throughout the family. So that way, if something came up down the road, you have a full extensive list of your family's history. This is something that you can do that's nonchalant, that's on your own time, but you're prepared in the long run in case somebody has a baby that they don't know what's wrong with. You know what I mean? And then you can find out by going through your family history, oh, it could be this or it could be that because it runs in our family. How important do you think it is?
I think it's really important. And one of the interesting things about that, I just recently saw a new doctor for a little trigger finger stuck in my hand. And those are the questions. Any history of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, in your mother, your father, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles. And I was thinking, like, oh, I really haven't thought about that. And so, yeah, that is really important to have a list of what else is going on. Did you know that, great aunt, Edna had a seizure disorder? That might be something really useful to know. These little things that, communicate with people, let people know what's important, let people know what's happening in your world. And sometimes, let me take that back. Not sometimes, always. It's important to be straight with people, to tell the truth. And if you see your loved one is struggling, have an honest conversation with them and say, you know what, Dad? I noticed that there are more scratches on the car, and I'm really concerned about your safety. And I'm really concerned about the safety of others, because I'm sure, in your opinion, you are just fine to continue driving, but I'm really concerned about that kid who's chasing their puppy out into the street. And to have those honest conversations, even when they're hard, or to say, to your aunt who never married, I'm really concerned that you have this magic friend who keeps showing up and says, they're going to do work on your house and you just need to give them a check. And say, something's not right here. And speak up, say something when you see something. Unfortunately, there are a lot of shady people out there.
It is, and it's so true. I mean, everybody's now doing these DNA tests to find out what their ancestry history, but nobody's doing the stuff that they can track without putting their DNA out on the web for everybody. Ask your mother, your father. Like, I have both of my children, I had them written up a list, grandparents, parents on both sides, of all of the medical history that was going. And when they both turned 18, I gave them a folder with all of the information in it, because you never know if they're going to need it down the road. Now my daughter has 2 boys. She's starting a history for them so that when they get to be 18, so we made this a family tradition. And this is the important conversations people need to have. I don't care what's in my DNA from histories years ago. I mean, maybe someday, but that's not going to help me. What's going to help me is to know the medical history of the immediate people around me.
Yes, yes. Although I don't want to discount the DNA testing because sometimes individuals um, may be adopted or may have grown up in foster care and not have access to their family members to get their family histories. If you were adopted, it might not have been an open adoption, and so now you're kind of stuck. You're in genetic limbo maybe. So then, I do recommend go ahead, take one of those tests. Don't rely
It,
100% on its accuracy, but it could be better
right.
than having no information about what could be coming health wise.
So
Yeah.
so true. And I really believe that even in adoption, the bare minimum information that they should get from the parents is any medical history, because that's what's going to be important to that child someday. You know what I mean? If you don't want to be known, your name doesn't have to be known, but at least give some medical history. You know what I mean? It's just so important. These are things that people don't want to talk about. They just don't want to think about. What are some of the most common everyday things that you hear about in your nonprofit?
Um, I hear about a lot of different things because I get asked a lot of questions by a lot of different people. I hear about housing shortages, accessible housing shortages, affordable, capital letters, affordable housing shortages. I hear about adult children who are caring for aging parents who are really struggling to balance work and their home life and caring for mom and dad. I hear from seniors who are so adamant that they want to remain independent for as long as possible, which I completely respect, but that they themselves recognize that they need help and they're loath to reach out for help. Um, I hear professionals struggling to find resources out there for really unusual situations. So as many people as there are unique stories. It could be anything from an individual who's, from a professional standpoint, an individual whose home is infested with bed bugs and they don't have family or friends. So, how do they navigate getting everything washed and cleaned and fumigated to get rid of the bed bugs? What are the resources for that? It could be, I'm trying to do work from home and I'm caring for grandchildren while my kids go to work and they've got distance learning and I've only got one computer and I'm not particularly tech savvy. The questions that come my way are usually very involved, very interesting stories, and they're very personal stories. An individual shared with me that their loved one is having some difficulties in relation to social isolation and loneliness, and it's really hurting their loved one in a cognitive way. And so that's unfortunately becoming a really common theme. I'm also hearing about caregivers getting burned out. So one of the things I list for our Elder info are all of the disease specific caregiver support groups. So stroke support and aphasia support and heart disease support and cancer support. But what I was having difficulty finding are I'm just a caregiver. And I don't mean that in any way to minimize when I use the term just, but it's not that my mom has dementia or that, my dad has Parkinson's. I'm just trying to get by through COVID and care for my family and care for my parents. And mom is always calling that she forgot one more thing at the store and I'm really burnt out. So starting January 15th at 10 a.m., RA Elder Info is going to be having caregiver support groups and they'll be peer led. I'll be facilitating and getting people, information and access to resources as needed. But starting on the 15th, the third Friday of the month at 10 a.m., we'll be running our caregiver support group. And if there's something that is more specific, say, for instance, someone wants to join the support group and, their loved one has Parkinson's and they would rather have a conversation about Parkinson's, I will be happy to, get them connected with that. If it is something that, somebody is really struggling and they need help and resources, to let people know, here's what you might be eligible for. And here's how you might want to apply. Here are the steps that you need to take. But that's going to be starting on the 15th. I'm looking forward to it because I know that there's a huge need, and that's at 10 a.m.
There is such a huge need, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. I know that we just received the 2020 Caregivers of the Year award. But a term that most people didn't realize is self-caregiver. I'm a caregiver to myself. So I'm not only, living myself day to day, but I'm my own advocate and I have to take care of myself for all of my extensive medical needs. And that is somebody who gets burnt out and needs somebody to run ideas off of and just to talk to. So these support groups are going to be hugely helpful to so many people. But what I really want to make sure that people understand is don't be afraid to ask. Go out there. Your question is then going to be asked by somebody else. Do not be afraid to reach out. No question is dumb and everything is important, and just ask. Let somebody help you. With the hour coming to a close, Deb, give us your final thoughts on what you really want to make sure that everybody knows and where they can find it.
So our website is rielderinfo.com. We are free. We will give you information for free. We'll get you connected with the resources that are available out there for free. We have a live streaming show every Friday at 9 a.m. here on Facebook at the RI Elder Info Facebook page. And we interview different nonprofits. Tina has been one of my Friday friends, just to get people the information on the resources that are out there, because there are a lot of resources. And nobody knows everything, myself included. So, like Tina said, ask, because there may be help out there that you hadn't thought of before. And if it's not available, ask anyway, because you're not the only one who's going to need that help. And so it needs to become available. And with many voices, it enables us to really help each other more. But that's what RI Elder Info is here for, is to give people the information that they need to age independently, to stay independent and out in the community in whatever way that looks for them. There's no prescribed, you have to do this, you have to have this income level, you must be able to do X, Y, Z. No. Information is power, and nobody should suffer from a lack of it. And that's really the most important thing. We do a lot of stuff with, different nonprofits. We share Friday Friends, do a lot with the veterans. We do a lot of stuff now virtually. One day COVID will be gone and we'll be having our community presentations again. And I'm really looking forward to that. But, in the meantime, share the love here virtually as much as we can. And if you have a question, you can call, you can email. It's Deb at rielderinfo.com, or you can call me at 401-585-0509. And if I'm able to answer the phone, I really do answer the phone. And if I'm not, it'll go to voicemail and I really do call back. That always seems to surprise people for some reason. But yeah, I'm a real person. And if you're looking at RI Elder Info and you say, oh, wait a minute, in my community, there's something new, call me, let me know, and I'll be happy to add it. Or if you say, oh, Deb, did you know on this page you spelled something wrong, which I'm pretty sure won't happen, but it could still be out there, call and let me know. I'm a real person. I'm not some giant industrial complex.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, we can do so much as individual organizations, but when we combined what we do, like we're doing right now, is where it's truly powerful. We are stronger together, and we all need each other, because I'm disabled, but I don't know everything about every disability out there. I'm still learning every day like everybody else. And when somebody asks me a question, I love saying, I don't know that answer, but I can't wait to find it out. And going to resources like you and other people that I can reach out to and finding out that resource, because if I don't know it, somebody else doesn't know it. And if you ask it, somebody else is going to ask it, and we can answer it before it's even asked again. So it's so important for you to take that leap and ask, because you could be helping somebody else and not even realizing it. So not only are you helping yourself, you're helping somebody else as well. This was such a great and so informative this hour. I thank you so much, Deb, for being one of my guests. Give us your website and your phone number and your email again, just one more time so everybody can know it.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me on, Tina. This has been great. Great fun tonight. I hope everybody has enjoyed it as much as I have. So it's rielderinfo.com. That's the website. My phone number is 401-585-0509. You can call me pretty much anytime. If you'd like, if you prefer, well, you can also text me if that works better for you. You can also email me at Deb, D-E-B, at rielder.info.com. It's super simple. And I look forward to hearing from you. And there really is no question that is too difficult or something that you think, might be embarrassing. You have no fears, and your questions remain private. It's all kept confidential. So don't worry. Ask away.
You're also on Facebook, so make sure you let them know the Facebook, because everybody's on Facebook.
Yes, RI Elder Info. Yes, we are on Facebook. Oh my God, I completely forgot. And we are on live at 9 a.m. every Friday for our Friday Friends. And during Friday Friends, we invite the community to ask questions of our guests, ask questions of me. And if we're not able to answer it in live time on the air, I will follow up with my guest that week to make sure that you get the answer to your question. And really, there's no questions that are off limits. It could be anything to incontinence supplies to life and death, what's a good hospice or things like that, and to have those kind of conversations to, where can I get a ride to go to the dentist? Yeah. Anything. And there's nothing,
It's so important. Yeah. It's so important. And what we want everybody to do tonight is share this podcast, because this information may not be important to you right now, but it may be to somebody else that you don't even know it's important to. So make sure that you're just hitting the share button. It costs you nothing. It's free of charge. And all of this information, and Deb can be a resource to somebody who really needs it, that didn't realize that this podcast was happening tonight. So we ask you to share this podcast, to let Deb's information and Rhode Island Elder information get out there to the masses, because they do so much good for so many people. So make sure you're sharing this. Thank you so much, Deb. I look forward to working with you throughout 2021, and you are welcome back on my podcast anytime. So anything that you have going on, make sure you reach out, and we will make sure you get on to spread your message. But thank you so much for being us here tonight. Thank you all for listening, and make sure you share. Have a great night, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.